Welcome everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to this week's episode of the weekly HOScale newsletter recaps for January 6th, 2025. This is the first episode of 2025, so I hope everyone had a fantastic new year and is ready to talk trains. Once again, as always, do me a favor and subscribe if you're new, or if you find yourself coming back anyways, really means a lot, so thank you in advance. Like the video if you enjoy, and let's go ahead and get started. First up, we've got ScaleTrains, of course, on your screen here. Talking about the HOScale SD45s. They only have a couple in stock from ScaleTrains Direct. Those three paint schemes you've seen flashing by here. These are those schemes. We got the Santa Fe, the large block Norfolk and Western, and then the Seaboard system, X Seaboard Coastlines. Just a couple in stock. My favorite was the Seaboard system model. I didn't end up picking one up as I saved my money for another model, but if you're interested in these, they do have just a couple left in stock. I've heard good things about the previous run of these SD45s. This is the first time they are offered with the rust painted wheels. I got to take a look at a couple at Lombard Hobbies as well when I was there. They looked really nice. I just decided to pass on this model, but I think it's a very good option if you're interested. Moving on, the HypoTypical Tier 4s. I did pick up one of the BNSF Heritage 1 HypoTypical schemes here, just because I love the Heritage 1 scheme, and I need ScaleTrains to do a rerun of the H1-9s. So in the meantime, I picked up one of those. I think it looks really good. I'll get a video out shortly about that. If you're interested, just a couple in stock. They did sell out of the Canadian Pacific version of these, which look nice as well. That's the Beaver scheme, as Canadian Pacific only has ES44s. Now CPKC, of course. Here are those that are currently in stock across these HypoTypical schemes. Seems like a pretty good GEVO, just another really nice Tier 4 from ScaleTrains. I'm happy with it so far, and I'll show you in the review that's coming as well. They do have a couple of these HypoTypical ET44s also in N scale as well. Also extremely limited, and this was pretty nice. Due to the holidays, they did extend that pre-order deadline for these ES44s and the GB40s. So that is this upcoming Friday, January 10th. For those of you that did not pre-order, keep an eye after this date if you're looking to pick up a specific road number or a paint scheme. You can always click on their Notify Me button on their website on that specific paint scheme or road number as well. Additionally, another extension here is those ES44s in the CSX Heritage schemes, as well as their Pride and Service units. So these 5 paint schemes here have that payment deadline extended. And then, of course, these additional schemes, this next set of 10, which will be delivered in 2 batches of 5, that is still open for pre-order. Moving on here, another pre-order with those ES44s that was extended are the Norfolk Southern Heritage units. Of course, there's all those paint schemes there. Give them a sec to flash by. I did do a review on these from a previous run that are very, very similar to this run. Only my Southern unit doesn't have the painted wheels, but in this run, you'll get those painted wheels and updated PTC and such. You can see the Pennsylvania and Southern are definitely the most popular, and they're pretty much sold out at a variety of online retailers as well. So on January 10th, take a look here from ScaleTrains to see if any of those were not paid in a pre-order, and you might be able to pick up one of those for yourself through ScaleTrains. I don't own the Pennsylvania unit yet. That's the last one that I think I want to pick up. Maybe the nickel plate eventually, but that's the last, or that'll be my 5th Heritage unit, and I think that's enough for now. Next up, another pre-order, the Milwaukee Road GP40. I do have one of these as well, and I'll try to get that review out this week. In the Milwaukee Road scheme here, the only thing I wish it had was billboard lettering on the side, but the era that they chose here was prior to that billboard scheme, so we just have the plain orange on the side of this locomotive. I've seen good things about these online as well. I'll let you be the judge after you take a look at my video if you're interested, but it looks really nice. It's a pretty good 4-axle locomotive, my first 4-axle from ScaleTrains, and it's their first ever run of these GP40s. The one caveat being that they are ScaleTrains, they are offered at a little bit higher price point than what we've seen from Atlas and Athearn in GP40s in the past, so that's just something to keep in mind. Moving on here, of course, they're partnered with Virtual Railfan, and through today, a little bit late here, the Glendale, Ohio location is free, so that's until tonight. Otherwise, you'll have to pay $4.99 a month to get access to that. They will be in Savannah, Georgia, this Wednesday, January 8th. If you're in the area, take a look at them there. And additionally, this upcoming weekend, they will be announcing an all-new freight car, and I've heard also some new SD40-2s in some paint schemes with ditch lights. So we'll see what they come out with after this weekend. So stay tuned for next Monday, and I hope to have that info for you by then. And that's all we've got for ScaleTrains. We got a lot to take a look at next over at Athearn. All right, welcome on over to the Athearn dispatcher here, where we're going to go ahead and start by taking a look at the HO-Scale Big Boy paint schemes. A couple of them flashing by here, but let me go ahead and open up the PDF and we can take a closer look. All right, here we go, the Big Boy. So a couple paint schemes here in the Union Pacific road name. We do have a couple other fantasy schemes as well. Of course, we got a Prime for Grime there and a Legendary Livery at the bottom. These do have road number specific features, as you can see there. You can see some of the differences in the shot there. One thing to note, this pre-order deadline is coming up on January 24th of this year. A couple other paint schemes. The Santa Fe looks pretty sharp, sort of similar to the Northern that they have, sort of that same paint scheme and font on the tender. And a nice Southern green as well. We got a Nacionales de Mexico as well. That's a legendary livery, of course. And here are some of those features if you're interested on these big boys. One thing to note here, this is the version with the coal tender, so not the current up-to-date oil burning tender with the modern PTC that we saw in the Big Boy Tour in 2024. So just a heads up on that, this is not the current version of the Big Boy 4014 and legendary liveries, etc. They do also have an N-scale release as well coming out, pretty much the same paint schemes as they'll just an N-scale. We do also have a run of Genesis PCNF smooth side boxcars, the 50-footers here. Here's a quick look at that product page, because we got a couple different paint schemes here and some Prime for Grime versions. Just to note, the Prime for Grime is more expensive, which I kind of disagree with. I wish it was the same price, but it's extra printing, extra work for Athearn, so I guess it justifies a little bit on the lower cost in the standard car. But up to you if you think that is worth it. So it's $54.99 or $49.99 as the standard boxcars. And back over here in the newsletters, some shipment updates for models expected in February. Wanted to take a quick look at this Genesis ICC caboose. I do love a good caboose. These caboose, or caboose, however you want to say the plural, do come either DCC compatible with lights or DCC compatible with sound and lights. So it is more expensive, of course, with the sound versions, and the lights work in DCC and DC as well. So here's some of those paint schemes here. You can see the price is a little out there. We got $119 without sound, which is pretty standard with your likes when comparing to Tangent at retail price, and $160 with the sound car sound from the Tsunami. Got a couple XCB&Q versions of this as well. And then some Fort Worth and Denver in the BN livery here. And here's a look at those features if you're interested in those as well. They look pretty good. I've seen some of their Athearn cabooses with the sound car, and they're pretty neat. I just prefer them myself without the sound in them. Back over in the newsletter here, we got an N-scale trailer that'll deliver, as well as the SD60Es, which I also want to take a look at real quick. So here is our product page, of course, for the SD60E, starting off with Norfolk Southern, which I think is the most recognizable owner of these locomotives here. Some neat difference in features between the models here as well. Different horns on them, mostly, is the main difference. And of course, our special livery of the Veteran Honor up top. And then we do have more difference in features here with different fuel tanks. And then we got a couple legendary liveries here as well. So sort of like Athearn's making these kind of be heritage units almost for the Norfolk Southern. So as if these locomotives got the heritage schemes instead of the ES44s. And here's a look at those features if you're interested in them as well. These are Genesis 2.0 models, so they do have the lit number boards and ground lights and such. They do come DCC ready and with Tsunami 2 sound. Alrighty, moving right along, we've got an HO-scale utility reefer trailer there, as well as an N-scale TOFC flat car. Always thought those were really neat. We got a roundhouse model here, which will move past 24-foot ore car, a couple paint schemes on that, as well as a roundhouse 34-foot hopper. And something I did want to take a look at as well, the Genesis GP38-2s. Starting off once again here with Norfolk Southern, as we did with the SD60Es. This one does highlight. These do have class lights and number boards that are lit, so definitely Genesis 2.0. So there's your Norfolk Southern variants there. We got a couple different road number specific features on these as well, which is pretty neat to see. That's our Norfolk Southern. Got a couple EMD lease locomotives as well, which are pretty neat. These are also ex-Conrail units, as were the Norfolk Southern units. And then a couple BNSF versions as well. So this will be interesting to see if there's enough differences here for me to purchase one of these and run it up side by side with the Rapido GP38. Now, of course, this is GP38-2 versus the Rapido GP38. So there will be some differences. Main one here is Athearn will be lacking the metal handrails that Rapido has. So that could be a pretty interesting head-to-head as well. We do have different variations here, like with patched over class lights and different locations of the front headlight here with the BNSF models. Additionally, we do have a couple Union Pacific here with some beacons and different number positions as well. And then the Chehalis Western, I believe is how you say that. Pretty neat paint scheme. I have not heard of this before, so if you have, props to you. And then some Milwaukee Road units, of course, as well. There's that billboard lettering that I was hoping to see on that third model there on the ScaleTrains GP40, but maybe in a future run we'll get that. That's my favorite rendition of the Milwaukee Road. Of course, with the very small fuel tanks as well. And here's a list of all the features here on these locomotives. Alrighty, moving back over here. So there should be, all those models should be in February. We do have some SD60Ms in stock now that we have taken a look at before. I'll just let these paint schemes move on by here so you can take a look, a little refresher for you. So if you haven't pre-ordered those are in stores, as well as the standard Athearn line of 50-foot high cubes also flashing by. And they'll also, of course, be at Amherst coming up at the end of this month. We did have one additional piece of mail from Athearn here talking about the pre-orders that are due in January, on January 24th. Pretty much all arriving in August of 2026. Of course, we have the big boy that we talked about in HO and N scale, as well as those 50-foot PCNF smooth side box cars. There's those F89 flat cars, the TOFC cars. They don't come with a trailer on them, as well as the N scales as well. We do have the standard Athearn line, the 60-foot Pullman baggage car that we've taken a look at before, as well as the 3-window caboose, and the 40-foot superior door box car, and a 45-foot trailer, and same in N scale there. And then we have a couple containers here, both with a chassis with a truck frame, as well as just the standard container. Here is just a quick look at those containers, since I know many of you are building intermodal trains. Here's a look at some of those paint schemes that we will see from this run of containers. If you've been waiting for one of these paint schemes to be run, now's your chance. $47.99 for a 3-pack. They do not sell them individually. But that's all we had here from Athearn. I wanted to take a quick shout out to Bowser Trains. Alright, I wanted to take a quick look here at a new release coming from Bowser. It's F9A units and F3 or F7B units, a little mix of the two there. Just a heads up, none of these are released standard DC or DCC ready. Your options are DCC silent or DCC sound. That runs you $200 or $300 respectively. Each A unit is offered in 2 road numbers, and each B unit is just offered in 1 road number with the option of silent or sound for each. So first we've got an F9AM in Union Pacific with a big plow there on the front. Here's its corresponding F3B unit. Got the F7A for SP&S, and the NYO and W here in F3A. We've got the Southern Executive Unit, F3A, with those roof-mounted air tanks. And it's F7B here. We've got an ex-Union Pacific Rock Island locomotive here. You can see that patch on the front with the Rock Island logo. Another Rock Island, more obvious that this is Rock Island. Another F9AM. And an F3B ex-Union Pacific for Rock Island. Here's an F7A for Milwaukee Road, an F9A, and an F7B. Here's an F3A for Bangor and Aroostook, an F9A for Santa Fe. I think the war bonnet logo, that yellow, is a little funky. I think it should cover the grills, up for debate there. And the F9B here for Santa Fe. We got Boston and Maine. This is Phase 4, the McGinnis scheme, one of my favorites. An F3B, another F3A in Phase 1 of Boston and Maine, and an F3B, also Phase 1. And one of my favorites here in this release from Jersey Central Lines, this is an F3A with roof-mounted safety rails all the way across, which I think is pretty neat. Here's the matching F3B. And we've got just a lone F7B in the Alaska Railroad's McKinley blue and yellow scheme. So pretty neat. These should be on their way. So if you have any of these on order, I know someone in the comments mentioned that, so I wanted to talk about them real quick here. We don't often have a ton from Bowser, so just a heads up that these are on their way. And next up, we'll go ahead and take a look at Broadway Limited here, starting off with an N-Scale exclusive that they shout out through Pioneer Trains at pioneertrains.com. Their upcoming E7, E8, and E9 release in N-Scale. We got the GM&O E7 and Erie E8 that you can only get through Pioneer Trains. So if you're interested, take a look at that by January 24th for that order deadline. And next up here for the HO-Scale Folk, their modern version of the HO-Scale Big Boy. So this is unlike the Athearn release. This is the modern excursion version with, you can see the TC antenna array, new builders plates, and big boy chalk mark. We do also have the triple dynamo on the front as well. So this production run was moved up. The order deadline is now January 30th, so you have to pick if you want the Athearn older 1940s version or the modern Broadway Limited version here by the end of January. It is highlighted. These are only going to be produced based on the pre-order reservations by January 30th. So if you are interested, definitely get your order in as soon as you can just to make sure you don't miss that. Again, deadline of January 30th if you want the modern BLI Big Boy. Next up, we'll take a look over at Atlas here at their 100th anniversary catalog because these items are done with pre-orders on January 8th of this Wednesday. We'll primarily focus on the HO items. I'll just scroll through here and we'll take a preview of what we'll look at. Here's the N-Scale if you're interested. We'll skip over that in the interest of time since it is about a 60-page document there. So I just want to move along through and we'll take a look at the HO scale in that document. So we have a couple of C40s back in the master line as well as B23-7s and B30-7s. Something I'm interested to see, the PSC caboose as well, and a couple other pieces of rolling stock as well, and then a Z-scale boxcar as well. So let's take a quick look at some of the paint schemes of those locomotives and HO-scale cars in the catalog. All right, so I've gone ahead and skipped forward to the HO-scale section of the catalog here. First up, a master release of the C420 locomotives. A couple different paint schemes here offered and road numbers. Even more here down below. These do come sound ready in their silver line or with sound installed as their gold line. Here's a quick look at that entire product list and then some of the features here as well. Then here's the sound equipped gold models. And these do come with ESU sound pre-installed in those gold line. Next up here, we got some Dash 7s, the B23 and B30-7s. We got a new paint scheme offered, the Central Maine and Quebec, which is a BNSF patch, of course. A couple H1 schemes, as well as Conrail and Norfolk Southern here. And they've got ditch lights. Some Collector's Series locomotives there as well. Here's some B30-7s. The BN doesn't have ditch lights, they note. And here is that list again for the sound ready models and some of those features. And our gold sound equipped models. You'll definitely want to get these from your favorite hobby shop just to lower the price a little bit. Next up, moving into the rolling stock, we've got a Master beer can tank car. This is a brand new model for Atlas. Got a bunch of different paint schemes here. Lots of them are Gatex schemes with different paints on them. Here's that full listing here of those. Coming in at $50 MSRP. And next up, next master release, the Portec 3000 covered hopper. These are all brand new paint schemes here offered in this run. I do like that Boston to Maine there, which is a leasing patch. And here's that full listing here. So as you can see, there's a couple road numbers per paint scheme as well, usually 3 for each. And a lot of these models that we're taking a look at here from Atlas will deliver in the third quarter of 2025. The PSC caboose, which looks very similar to the Hawker Siddeley van that Rapido will be coming out with. I do have 2 of those on pre-order. So I do believe the Rapido models will be a higher quality of these, but they're doing some different paint schemes. So if Rapido doesn't have that model, these might be an option for you, and they'll definitely be a little bit of a lower price for these as well. But another option if you're interested in these as well. They're very similar, but they are slightly different to my knowledge. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And again, a couple paint schemes per road number. And they are DCC ready, as they note here as well, so you can drop in your decoder and get the sound functions in there if you'd like. Another master release, the 23,500 gallon tank car is here, with a couple new road numbers and paint schemes. Here's that full list there, and some of those features. And then the 1932 ARA boxcars and some new paint schemes as well. And some new road numbers of previously done paint schemes. There's that list for you. And finally, a Trainman release, the aluminum Colgons, a couple new paint schemes offered. This is the Trainman line, which is Atlas's lowest level of detail. So it's good to fill out a rolling stock, but if you're looking for maybe one car or such, you might want to go with a higher level of detail here. Or if you're just interested in the paint schemes themselves, you can take a look there. They do offer them in 3 packs as well as single cars. But that's all we have from new releases from Atlas. Again, all these items that we took a look at have a pre-order deadline of this coming Wednesday, January 8th. And we'll go ahead and round out with a quick look at the Walthers E update. First up, the mainline plastics 50-foot center flow covered hopper. We've taken a look at this before. Again, I got that same paint scheme in a Bachmann silver car. This Walthers mainline is probably better, so I might pick it up just to compare eventually. And then Walthers is also coming out with a run of 86-foot high-Q boxcars in their proto line, so they're top of the line, which is an interesting market for them because we have Tangent and Class 1 also doing these very, very high-end 86-foot boxcars. So we'll see how they compare. They look pretty good, but of course the Class 1 and Tangent cars look pretty good as well. So up to you. I think they're a little bit cheaper than those. So if you like these paint schemes, you can weigh the odds there and see if this is the one for you. We do also have a Kato release here, N-Scale P42s for Amtrak. If you're interested, you can get them with DCC sound. And something we've looked at from Rapido before, a new surprise run at the time of the FPAs. So the FPA4 and FPB4, you got CN and Via Rail schemes. We've taken a look at that in last month's Rapido newsletter. So if you're interested, you can watch that back. But just a couple paint schemes there if you're interested in those. With that, I'll go ahead and wrap up for this week. We didn't have a ton of newsletters come in, but we definitely had a lot from Athearn to take a look at. The model that's next up on my radar for delivery are the Rapido Winnebagos, the Metro locomotives, the F40 PHM-2s. That should be here by the end of the month. So definitely keep an eye out for that. When that video goes up, that's probably my most anticipated locomotive ever. If you did make it this far, consider subscribing. Really appreciate it. Helps me to make $1 or $2 one day. So thank you very much. Like the video if you enjoyed as well, and drop me a comment if there's anything interesting here, or you just want to chat, or if I missed something. I'm not always perfect. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.